Hi, let's talk about some current Iranian politics, internal politics, and you kind of have to be Iranian to understand what's going on and should be following these events to some extent. Anyhow, seems that the Rouhani camp, Rouhani, Zariff, they're really the same faces of the government that's in power right now. They're going to lose in the upcoming election, and in fact, I think that the Iranian people, we really have two governments. We don't have a single government, and but the Rouhani Zarif government, or the liberals, Iranian liberals, they are really gimmicky kind of government. Like, say for example, I have this problem sometimes. You have very bad publicity, bad public relations, and you go out and you hire this team of, you know, Hollywood liberals to come in and represent you. You want to do business with countries that are pro-Western, or some with the Wahhabi type regimes, or with other countries that may or may not be pro-Western, like India. Russia is not pro-Western. China isn't. So this team is kind of doing all the negotiations and all the easing into uh, useful economic contracts, but really what you want to do is to make sure that this public relation company doesn't take itself too seriously and doesn't lose the sight of the fact that they're still employees of the Iranian government, and they could also be subject to Iranian law if they commit fraud, or represent themselves differently to wealthy foreigners. Then those contracts may not be enforced. This is kind of a very strange way of looking at the Iranian government, but I think many Shia governments in the Middle East, Iraqi or Lebanese government, or even Yemenis government, Houthi government, they kind of like the same kind of thing. Like, in the Lebanon, the Hezbollah isn't really the most dominant part of the civil kind of government. The civil government is a coalition of many different factions. Many of them are Christian or Druze, but the Hezbollah, or the Shia, or the religious portion, has a real significant influences, because they uh, they respond to the problems that the Iranian people or Lebanese people have, of the need for uh, to defend their country against Israel, or against United States. Or when the United States came around and imposed all these sanctions, and they have been going on for so many years now, they're in different levels and different forms. Then this core part of the Iranian government, that uh, that's really the government that owns and operates everything, it it reacted by bringing in Iranian scientists and geniuses to re-engineer, weapons that they had some, but a lot of them were they were unable to get, or aircraft or ships, and this went on for many years. I think the last 20 years or even the last 5 years of Iranian engineering, Iranian desire to become self-sufficient technologically, it has been very hidden. Some others they look at it, but I think many foreigners they're very much in the dark. But when Khomeini was in power, I think there was a meeting with many Iranian military leaders, and Khomeini basically told them that don't expect that the foreigners, the Americans or their proxies to sell you or give you weapons that you could defend us ourselves when they are themselves supplying with our enemies, with Iraqis and with the Wahhabis, with money and weapons. Uh, they're not gonna basically he told them the truth in their face that hey, you need to bring in our own engineers, and if there is any weapons that you can get, you have to invent or re-engineer what we have and then mass produce it here. And this is exactly what happened. But these developments have been going on for so long now. I would say at least 20 years, maybe longer. And at some point, I think this point was reached by many Iranian people who were in the military, or they really well, we have also a kind of senate, a small senate, they call it Masjid Obregon, that they really oversee what everybody else is doing. And I think at some point they reached this conclusion that hey, we are self-sufficient. Our weapons are much better than many countries, and we don't need these guys. Have you ever had this feeling? Like I've had this feeling many times since I used to work in many American companies, and like they would hire me, and they really hated Iranians. They really hated me, but they would hire me because hey, they had to do these things. The Christmas is coming, and we have workload, and we'll hire this heathen. Then when I was working for many of these companies, then at some point when I went to work, I get this feeling, hey, this place, the energies that are coming out of these places, they don't need me. Did you get that feeling like a week or a month before actually getting booted out? You knew somewhere deep inside that hey, these guys, they're gonna sack me. They're gonna kick me in the butt. I think this is the feeling that the Rouhani and Zariff government have had to deal with. And my mother was telling me that there is all these jokes about Rouhani. Usually in Iranian circles, the first thing that happens is the jokes that surface. I think this happens. Similar thing happened at the end of Shah's time, and they were saying all this stuff. That especially about his sister Ashraf. She liked gambling, and many journalists they were commenting, "Oh look, she took millions of dollars of our money and went and gambled it away in American." She would get more criticism and jokes than the Shah himself. Anyhow, but the jokes are now on Rouhani, and then there's there is two journalists. One is his name is Omid Dhana, and the other one is uh, Parvin Zamani, and they both have programs in Farsi. That's why the stuff I'm telling you, it sounds like sci-fi from a Martian, political circles, but this is happening now. Anyhow, the real government, the, they, they discovered that we don't need these guys. We don't need to have a front that negotiates with all these stupid mini fascist states in Europe, or countries that are either are or maybe pro-Western, and we can do without them. Well, in the last month or two, I've been watching. Is There's like the struggle for legitimacy that the Rouhani and Zariff are conducting, and they got a very bad blow because they were making negotiations with the American and the Europeans to reinstate the nuclear agreement, and these negotiations were themselves such a fraud. I mean, everybody in the negotiation is totally abusing and taking advantage of it. In fact, they discovered that the last explosion in the Natanz nuclear plant was actually engineered by one of the inspectors from the International Atomic Agency, had sneaked in a package and installed inside the crane or something, very heavy machinery, and they missed inspecting it because they wouldn't think such a heavy crane would might be have explosives, and it exploded and destroyed one of the buildings where new centrifuges were going to be installed. But the second one also was similar scenario, and the device was a heavy machinery, and it was exploded. Well, now these days there's all these reports coming in that Rouhani had tried to dissolve IRGC, which is really the only part of our military which is similar to Marines, that would stop foreign attacks, uh, fights for Iran regardless. And they basically, because of the last terrorist attack on the um, Natanz nuclear plant, the Rouhani and Zarif team, they have totally lost credibility. This is what I see from listening to the Iranian journalists that are in touch with the government, and they are propping up different candidate, Dr. Saeed Muhammad, and also he also was in charge of many large scale projects, like here they would do public works or infrastructure to bring LNG to Tehran using pipes, or making more train rails everywhere. And he's gaining ground, and it's very possible that he's going to be the next president. But also the stuff that the United States and CIA have been doing, and has been very damaging to Rouhani government. One that I remember was that they discovered a ring of these technicians that were sponsored by CIA. They were installed in all different sensitive information system in Iran, and they were spying for U.S. government, and the Iranian government caught up with them, and many of them got executed. Then there had been many prosecutions by some even former Iranian or Rouhani government officials, and they for fraud, some for spying, and well, I think Rouhani himself is not he wouldn't betray, but he's too liberal, and there are some in Iranian government that they just want Iran to be like a country similar to like Kuwait or Bahrain, just have relations, bullshit negotiations, and this nuclear agreement or negotiation is an example of really fake diplomacy going on to appease Americans and Europeans to just leave Iran alone. Let us do whatever the crap we want to do, and you just go on your way. Rouhani is, I think, my mother liked him because Iranians were sick of war and they wanted somebody like friendly to business and do peace and let's just make money and forget all this. And this is a tendency in Iran, but things didn't work out right, and especially with all these attacks by Israel, all the wars that they instigate, and the very obnoxious, undeserved influence they have in many countries. It did create a reaction, and we see the reaction. I'm pretty sure that the Rouhani team is going to lose in the elections. But I think that the Iranian government did not want for it to happen in a jerkish, forceful way, because we in our country the trend has been for a very long time to get rid of monarchies. Like Iranians, they wanted to get rid of Qajaris and the Pahlavis, and the tendency was to make a republic. That's there is a component that comes about by elections, and it's responsive to what the ordinary people want. Well, even though the government or Khomeini knows that these guys, Rouhani and Zarif, they are a fraud, but they were useful fraud, but they have lost their usefulness, and some of the stuff they have done was offensive. Well, many Iranian presidents, even Ahmadinejad in the past, did stuff that was very offensive, very for example, Ahmadinejad, in his 10 years in office, he constantly tried to take control of Iranian oil ministry or oil installations, kind of like defund the real government. These things go on under the surface, and I think the real government came around, uh, kind of uh, kind of kicked him in the butt, quiet him down. Then I think this has been going on even more violently in the past. Well, they elected Bani Sadr, and the desire was there to have Bani Sadr remain in political power because he was also very useful, similar to Rouhani and Zarif or even Ahmadinejad. But Bani Sadr, he took himself very seriously. He wanted to kind of do what Ahmadinejad was trying to do, make a soft coup d'etat. Or Rouhani actually wanted a little bit more than soft coup d'etat, but Bani Sadr he totally lost it, and he thought that, oh, because I'm just elected by all these people, I'm the government, which is not exactly true. Even in United States, in many Western there are uh, multiple levels of government, and some part of the government in Iran, they have a lot of influence and power, and they are not going to lose the influence and power, and actually do have more legitimacy than somebody like Ahmadinejad or Bani Sadr or Khamenei, or not Khamenei, but Khatami. Uh, you know, for example, the group that Khamenei is part of the government is really the underlying government. All these other guys, they're like icing on the cake, but we cannot lose that, because then with our public, with our culture and our history, that the Iranians, hey, we don't want to lose that component. That's the democratic component of government, and if we elect somebody that's obnoxious to some extent, or you just have to tolerate them. Uh, and they have been tolerating them, and they did tolerate Bani Sadr too, even though he he really had gone overboard. And towards the end, when Bani Sadr was deposed, he, I think uh, he colluded with the MKO, which is a terrorist organization. Well, then MKO had done some very interesting things, killed many Iranian politicians. So there came a point that Khomeini had to get rid of both of them, and there was no way around it. But with the Rouhani and with Ahmadinejad, the government is taking its time, making sure that they exit the political arena in a peaceful, way, that and the people have a chance to make their own decisions. But then, talking to my mother, I noticed that many of the news that that's really war news are not being dispersed very well. Is because the government does not want people to make a decision that's like a knee-jerk decision. Uh, there is no choice in a total sense except to go to war with the United States and Israel. There's no end to their provocations and the damages they have done. We have to hit them. We have to hit them very hard with Israel. They have been hitting them, but then distributing this news is not very healthy, because the Iranian public might might react very negatively. Well, they might want the mascara called Rouhani, and even though the mascara doesn't do anything for you. But yeah, that's just some consideration when you look at all the news and stuff coming out. But I think that many Iranians are very sick of these liberals, or pro-Western, or the mascara. They want rid of them, and our policies and our government uh, very surely is going to be what we want, what we really want. If it is a component of it is warfare, or let be, that's warfare. Well, I think my diabetes is kicking in, but there is another trend that you can kind of see, is that the warfare and retaliations are going to be very hard hits, very extreme, because the Americans and the Israelis and pro-Western, they have pulled every trick out of the hat, and they have attacked Iran, its military, its economy, in every sense of the word. And the attacks that are taking place now, they are very hard hits. Like they hit Israeli base and killed many Israelis in Erbil, in Iraq. They hit Israel's most advanced rocket factory and research center. They hit the Dimona nuclear power plant very hard. I think that they've been hitting the Americans. The gloves are already off, even though the election hasn't happened, and the liberals are still going around and making speeches and negotiating. And I had a video about the nuclear negotiations. I mean, I don't understand why we have nuclear negotiations if we already have nukes in our underground bases. Then what kind of negotiation? I think these new negotiations are to make Netanyahu happy. Like since I got still some time left before the Iranians get the nuke. But anyhow, uh, in the last days of Rouhani's administration, he's trying to do large public scale public projects. I was watching Iranian TV, and they were have built a very large desalination plants and bringing water from Oman Sea or Persian Gulf into central Iran. It's very dry, and you know Rouhani had these celebrations. I guess that's one form of trying to get legitimacy, but I think these projects, they had started a long time ago, and the Iranian engineers or technicians, that's really their call or their accomplishments. We'll see. Uh, I don't think the Iranians want the mascara anymore, no matter what. At some point, the Iranians and the Iranian government, or the real Iranian government, discovered that, hey, we don't need these guys. Well, thank you for being in my YouTube channel. This is a think tank. If you understand these ideas, these videos, you should really look into getting your own PhD. And also, I think many my audience really miss out what I'm telling them. Please subscribe, leave comment, don't be shy. We'll go on the next one. Thank you.